The crystal chandeliers of the Azure Room cast dancing prisms across marble floors, where Manhattan's elite gathered like peacocks displaying their wealth. At table 7, Marcus Davenport sat with the casual arrogance of a man who'd built empires before his 40th birthday. His tailored charcoal suit probably cost more than most people's cars. Dark hair, perfectly styled, trimmed beard framing a jawline that seemed carved from stone. Light-skinned, with eyes that constantly calculated, always measuring everyone's worth in dollars and cents. "Another bottle of the Chateau Margaux," he announced, not quite looking at the waitress. "The 1996, not that swill you brought last time." The restaurant hummed with quiet conversations, the gentle clink of silverware against fine china. Soft jazz played in the background, barely audible over the murmur of self-important voices discussing stocks, properties, mergers. Everything here screamed exclusivity. Everything except the woman who approached his table. Emma Hartley moved through the dining room with practiced grace, her long blonde hair pulled back in an elegant ponytail that somehow made her look both professional and impossibly young. Blue eyes that had seen too much, yet still held something unbroken, something defiant. She carried herself differently than the other servers, like she was just passing through this world, on her way to somewhere else. "Right away, sir," she said, her voice steady despite the dismissive wave he'd given her. Marcus barely glanced up from his phone. "And tell the chef the duck was overcooked. I expect better for $1,200. His dinner companions, 2 hedge fund managers with forgettable faces, chuckled nervously. They always did. Everyone always laughed at Marcus Davenport's pronouncements, whether they were funny or not. "That's what $4 billion bought you." "Automatic agreement." Emma nodded, making a note on her pad, but Marcus caught something in her expression. The slightest tightening around her mouth, a flash of something in those blue eyes. Irritation? No, something deeper. Disappointment, maybe. Like she'd expected more from humanity and kept being proven wrong. It intrigued him, and Marcus Davenport hated being intrigued. "You sing." The question came out of nowhere, stopping her mid-turn. Emma paused, looking back at him with carefully blank features. "Excuse me?" "It's a simple question." Marcus leaned back in his chair, studying her the way he might examine a quarterly report. "You have that look. Aspiring actress? Failed musician? Let me guess. You're between opportunities while waiting for your big break?" The other diners at nearby tables had started to notice. Conversations dimmed. Attention shifted toward table 7. Marcus felt it, fed off it. He loved an audience. Emma's jaw tightened, almost imperceptibly. "I'll get your wine, sir." "That's not an answer." He stood, his 6'2" frame unfolding with the lazy confidence of a predator. "See, I've made it a hobby. Studying the dreamers who come to New York thinking they're special, thinking they'll be the exception. Then reality hits and they end up serving overpriced duck to people who actually matter." A woman at table 4 gasped softly. Emma's knuckles whitened around her notepad. "Marcus, maybe we should—" one of his companions started. $1,000? Marcus interrupted, pulling out his wallet. He extracted 10 crisp $100 bills, laying them on the white tablecloth like cards in a game. "If you can actually sing, really sing, not some karaoke nonsense, but something that proves you're not just another delusional waitress with dreams bigger than her talent." The restaurant had gone completely silent now. Even the jazz pianist had stopped mid-song. Every eye fixed on the scene unfolding at table 7. Emma stood perfectly still, her face a mask, but her hands trembled slightly. "Mr. Davenport, I'm working. I can't— 2,000. He added more bills to the pile. "Come on. You're clearly offended by my assessment. Prove me wrong, or admit I'm right, and get back to your actual job." The manager appeared from somewhere, wringing his hands. "Mr. Davenport, perhaps— Stay out of this, Gerald." Marcus didn't even look at him. His gaze remained locked on Emma. "Well, or should I just tip you the $2,000 for confirming what I already know? That you're exactly as ordinary as you appear." Something shifted in Emma's expression. The mask cracked, not with anger exactly, with something colder, more purposeful. She set down her notepad with deliberate care. "What would you like me to sing?" Her voice was different now, clearer, stronger. Marcus smiled, thinking he'd won. "Dealer's choice. Surprise me. If you can. Emma walked toward the small stage where the piano sat. The jazz pianist, an older black man with kind eyes, watched her approach. She whispered something to him. He nodded slowly, a slight smile crossing his face, and his fingers found the keys. The opening notes filled the room, hauntingly beautiful, achingly familiar, and then Emma Hartley opened her mouth to sing. The first note hit like a physical force. Pure crystalline sound poured from Emma's throat like liquid gold. The note soared through the restaurant, impossibly controlled, reaching heights that seemed to defy human capability. It wasn't just singing. It was something transcendent, something that grabbed every person in that room by the heart and refused to let go. Marcus felt his breath catch, physically catch, like someone had punched him in the solar plexus. The song was Nessun Dorma, but not like he'd ever heard it before. Emma's voice carried the weight of mountains, the lightness of air, the pain of 1,000 goodbyes, and the hope of infinite tomorrows. Every word in Italian flowed with such emotion, such raw, unfiltered power, that grown men at nearby tables felt tears forming without understanding why. Her eyes were closed now, long lashes resting against pale cheeks. She wasn't performing for them anymore. She was somewhere else entirely, lost in the music, channeling something bigger than herself. The blue in her eyes, when she opened them briefly, seemed to glow with an inner fire. The pianist accompanied her with reverence, his fingers dancing across the keys like he was playing for royalty. Because in that moment she was. Emma Hartley commanded that stage with the presence of someone who belonged on the world's greatest opera houses. Not serving duck to ungrateful billionaires. Marcus stood frozen, his carefully constructed superiority crumbling like sand castles against the tide. He'd challenged thousands of people in his life, humiliated them, broken them, proven them wrong. He was always right, always, but this was different. The climax approached. Vincerò, vincerò, vincerò! I will win. Her voice exploded on those final notes, filling every corner of the restaurant, vibrating in the chandeliers, resonating in the champagne glasses, echoing in the hollow spaces of Marcus Davenport's chest where his heart should have been. And then, silence, perfect, absolute, devastating silence. Emma opened her eyes slowly, returning from wherever she'd been. She looked directly at Marcus, and in that gaze he saw everything he'd tried to deny. Dignity, strength, undeniable, extraordinary talent that made his billions feel like pocket change. The restaurant erupted. Applause thundered through the azure room like a physical force. People were standing, some openly weeping, others shaking their heads in disbelief. The woman at table 4 clutched her husband's arm, mascara running down her cheeks. A Wall Street executive in a $3,000 suit wiped his eyes with his napkin, not caring who saw. Brava, someone shouted. Brava. The cry was taken up by others. Brava, brava, brava. Emma stood on that small stage, breathing heavily, her chest rising and falling with the exertion. She looked fragile suddenly, vulnerable, like she'd poured so much of herself into that performance that there was barely anything left. But she stood tall, shoulders back, chin up. Marcus realized his hands were shaking. His hands. Hands that had signed billion-dollar deals without a tremor, that had fired thousands of employees without hesitation, that had never, ever shown weakness. The pianist stood, taking Emma's hand and raising it high. The applause intensified. A standing ovation in a Michelin-starred restaurant, something that never happened, was happening now for a waitress, for Emma Hartley, Gerald. The manager was clapping so hard his palms were probably bruised. The sommelier, the sous chef peeking from the kitchen, the coat check girl, every single staff member watched with pride and wonder. One of their own had just done the impossible. Marcus forced himself to move, to walk toward the stage, his expensive shoes clicking against marble that suddenly seemed to stretch for miles. Everyone watched him now, their applause fading slightly, curious to see what the man who'd started this would do. Emma stepped down from the stage, meeting him halfway. Up close, he could see the slight sheen of perspiration on her forehead, the rapid pulse at her throat, the way her hands trembled just like his. Marcus started, then stopped. Words failed him. Marcus Davenport, who'd given TED Talks to millions, who'd addressed the UN, who'd negotiated with presidents and kings, couldn't find words. Emma looked at him waiting, not gloating, not angry, just waiting. He swallowed hard. Where did you train? A slight smile touched her lips, sad, knowing. Juilliard. Full scholarship. Graduated top of my class 5 years ago. The words hit like bullets. Each one precise, devastating. I sang at La Scala, the Met Vienna State Opera. Her voice was quiet now, conversational, but somehow that made it worse. I was supposed to be the next great American soprano. That's what they all said. The critics, the directors, everyone. Marcus felt something cold settling in his stomach. What happened? Emma's blue eyes held his, unflinching. My mother got sick. Stage 4 cancer. No insurance. The treatments, the experimental drugs, the round-the-clock care. It cost everything. My savings, my career, my future. She paused, and in that pause, Marcus heard the weight of sacrifice, of love, of choices that weren't really choices at all. She died anyway. 6 months ago. The restaurant had gone quiet again, people straining to hear this conversation that felt too intimate, too raw for public consumption. And the debts? Marcus heard himself ask, though he already knew the answer. Still there. Emma's smile didn't reach her eyes. Medical bills don't disappear just because the patient does. So here I am, Mr. Davenport, serving overpriced duck to people who actually matter, just like you said. The words landed like slaps. Gentle, precise slaps that stung far worse than any shout could have. Around them, the other diners pretended not to listen. But Marcus could feel their judgment, their contempt radiating toward him in waves. He looked down at the table where his $2,000 still lay. Crisp bills that suddenly seemed obscene, insulting, like putting a Band-Aid on a severed limb. The money, he started, gesturing toward the bills. Keep it. Emma's voice was firm. I didn't sing for your bet. I sang because you implied I couldn't, that I was ordinary, delusional. She picked up her notepad from where she'd left it. I may be serving tables, Mr. Davenport, but I know exactly who I am. The question is, do you? She turned to walk away, back to the kitchen, back to her ordinary life of extraordinary sacrifice. Marcus watched her go, feeling something he hadn't felt in 20 years. Shame. Real, burning, undeniable shame. Wait. The word came out rougher than he intended. Emma paused but didn't turn around. The entire restaurant held its breath. Marcus's mind raced. He'd built an empire on reading people, on finding angles, on knowing exactly what move to make in any situation. But this wasn't business. This wasn't a negotiation. This was something else entirely. Something he'd avoided his whole adult life. This was being wrong. Publicly, completely, devastatingly wrong. I'm sorry. 2 words he'd said maybe a dozen times in 40 years, and never once meant them. Until now, Emma turned slowly, her expression guarded. Surprised, maybe, but still waiting for the catch because men like Marcus Davenport always had a catch. I'm sorry, he repeated, louder this time, addressing not just her, but the entire room. I was cruel, arrogant. I made assumptions based on nothing but my own inflated ego and... He paused, forcing himself to continue. And I was completely, utterly wrong. Someone in the back started clapping, slowly, deliberately. Others joined in, a smattering of applause that felt different from before. Not celebration, acknowledgement maybe, or approval of something unexpected. Emma's expression softened just slightly. Apology accepted, Mr. Davenport. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have other tables. No, Marcus stepped forward. I mean, yes, but how much? She frowned. How much what? The debt. The medical bills? How much do you still owe? Emma's eyes widened. Understanding dawned, followed immediately by resistance. Mr. Davenport, I don't need your charity. It's not charity. The words came faster now, his business mind engaging with the problem, finding solutions, making calculations. It's investment. You have a gift, Emma. A once-in-a-generation gift that the world deserves to hear. You should be on stages, not serving on them. That ship has sailed. Her voice carried the weight of accepted loss. I'm 29. In opera, that's ancient for someone trying to restart. The roles go to younger singers, the ones who didn't disappear for 2 years. I missed my window. You're 29. Marcus couldn't help the slight smile. Mozart died at 35, having composed over 600 works. Beethoven didn't premiere his first symphony until he was 30. Your window isn't closed, Emma. Someone just convinced you it was. She stared at him, something flickering in those blue eyes. Hope, maybe. Dangerous, fragile hope. I have connections, Marcus continued, the ideas flowing now. The Met La Scala, Lincoln Center. I sit on the boards of half the major performing arts institutions in the country. One phone call and you could audition for any of them. In exchange for what? Emma's voice turned cautious. Men like you don't give without taking, Mr. Davenport. What's the price? The question stopped him cold, because she was right. His whole life had been transactions, exchanges, quid pro quo. Everything had a price. Everyone wanted something. But what did he want from Emma Hartley? Nothing. The word felt foreign in his mouth. I want nothing from you, except... He paused, searching for honesty in a place he rarely visited. Except maybe to prove that I'm not entirely the monster I appeared to be 10 minutes ago. Emma studied him, really looked at him, like she was seeing past the expensive suit and the perfectly trimmed beard to something underneath, something he wasn't sure existed anymore. The debt is $240,000, she said quietly. Give or take, Marcus didn't flinch. $240,000. He'd spent more than that on his last vacation. His watch cost nearly that much. The wine he'd ordered, the 1996 Chateau Margaux, would run him $8,000 for the bottle. Done. He pulled out his phone. Give me your information. The full amount will be transferred by Monday morning. Mr. Davenport, Marcus, he looked up from his phone. If I'm going to change your life, you should probably call me Marcus. A laugh escaped her, short and surprised, like she couldn't quite believe this was happening. This is insane. Insane is wasting a voice like yours on people who don't appreciate it. Marcus was already typing, his fingers flying across the screen with the same decisive energy he brought to every business deal. What's your full name? Bank information? Actually, better yet, give me your number. My attorney will contact you first thing Monday morning. Emma hesitated, the notepad still clutched in her hand like a lifeline to her normal, predictable world. A world where billionaires didn't suddenly offer to pay off six-figure debts. Where Cinderella stories didn't happen in real life. Why are you doing this? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Marcus stopped typing. The question deserved more than a flippant answer. More than the easy corporate speak he usually deployed. He looked at her, really looked at her, and realized he didn't entirely know the answer himself. Because 10 minutes ago I was certain I knew everything about you, he said slowly. I had you categorized, dismissed, filed away as irrelevant. And then you opened your mouth and proved that I don't know a damn thing. That certainty, that arrogance. It's made me billions, Emma. But it's also made me into someone I'm not particularly proud of. The restaurant had gone quiet again. Everyone pretending to return to their meals while straining to hear every word. You're a reminder, Marcus continued, that assumptions are dangerous. That worth isn't measured in bank accounts. That I've probably walked past 100 extraordinary people and never bothered to see them. He gestured around the room. How many others are there? How many geniuses serving tables, driving cabs, cleaning offices because life happened and dreams got derailed? Emma's eyes glistened, but she blinked the tears back. So this is about your guilt? Maybe. He allowed himself a small smile. Is that so wrong? Using guilt as motivation to do something good? She considered this, then slowly recited her phone number. Marcus entered it into his contacts, his thumb hovering over the save button. Emma Hartley. 2 words that an hour ago would have meant nothing to him. My attorney, Richard Chen, will call you Monday at 9. Marcus pocketed his phone. He'll handle the debt payments directly to the creditors. No money will go through you, so there's no tax implication. He'll also draft a contract for representation. Representation? Emma's eyebrows rose. You'll need management. Someone to handle bookings, negotiations, PR. I know people. The best people. He was in his element now, solving problems, creating strategies. We'll start with a private showcase. Invite the right critics, the right directors. Get you back on people's radar, Marcus. She said his name carefully, testing it out. This is too much. I can't accept. You already sang for $2,000, he interrupted. Technically, you earned it. Everything else is just me making a sound investment in a proven talent. Think of it as venture capital for the arts." A genuine smile crossed her face, transforming her features from pretty to absolutely radiant. "You're trying to make this transactional. To make it make sense in your world. Is it working?" "Not really," but she was still smiling. "Nobody does something like this without wanting something in return." Marcus picked up the $2,000 from the table, folding the bills carefully. He held them out to her. "Then here's what I want. I want you to take this money, quit this job tonight, and spend the next month doing nothing but training, getting your voice back to performance condition, preparing for the showcase." Emma didn't take the money. "I have rent, bills, I can't just quit." "The debt payment includes a living stipend for 6 months," Marcus said. "Richard will explain everything. You'll have enough to focus entirely on your comeback without worrying about survival. You've thought of everything." There was wonder in her voice, mixed with disbelief. "I'm very good at what I do." He pressed the bills into her hand, closing her fingers around them. "Take it, please, let me do this one decent thing." Their hands touched and Marcus felt an unexpected jolt. Not attraction exactly, though Emma was undeniably beautiful. Something else. Connection, maybe. The recognition of one human being truly seeing another for the first time. Emma looked down at the money in her hand, then back up at Marcus. "Okay," she said softly. "Okay, I'll do it." "I'll try. You'll succeed." Marcus said it with absolute certainty, the same tone he used when closing deals. "I've bet on a lot of things in my life, Emma. I've won far more than I've lost. And I'm betting on you." The applause started again, softer this time, but no less genuine. The other diners had been watching this entire exchange like the final act of an opera, and now they were showing their approval. Not of the singing this time, but of the transformation, of witnessing something rare and precious, a second chance being born. Gerald, the manager, approached cautiously. "Mr. Davenport, Miss Hartley, the staff would like to offer champagne. On the house, of course." "Actually," Marcus said, an idea forming, "bring champagne for everyone, every table. The best you have. Tonight's dinner is on me, for everyone in the restaurant." Gasps rippled through the room. Gerald's eyes widened. "Sir, that's over $40,000. Then it's a bargain." Marcus pulled out his black American Express card, handing it to the stunned manager. "Tonight we're celebrating Emma's comeback, second chances, the power of being wrong and admitting it." The restaurant erupted in cheers and applause. People Marcus had never met, whose names he didn't know, raised their glasses toward him and Emma. For once, the adulation wasn't about his money or his power. It was about something human, something real. Emma stood beside him, overwhelmed, her blue eyes shining with unshed tears. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll make me look good," Marcus replied with a slight grin. "Say that when you're standing on the stage at the Met, receiving a 10-minute standing ovation. You'll remember the arrogant bastard who almost missed seeing your brilliance." She laughed, wiping at her eyes. "I'll remember. Trust me, this isn't something I could forget even if I tried." The sommelier appeared with bottles of Dom Perignon, an army of servers fanning out to every table. The mood in the Azure Room had completely transformed. What had started as a typical evening of quiet luxury had become something else entirely. A celebration, a moment that people would talk about for years. "I should get back to work," Emma said, though she made no move to leave. "I still have the rest of my shift." "No, you don't." Gerald reappeared, slightly out of breath. "Miss Hartley, take the rest of the night off. With pay, actually." He looked at Marcus, then back at Emma. "If you're truly pursuing your singing career, we'll be sorry to lose you, but we'll understand. You have my recommendation for anything you need." Emma's hand flew to her mouth. "Gerald, I can't just—" "You can." The manager's voice was firm but kind. "Emma, I've managed this restaurant for 12 years. I've seen hundreds of servers come and go. You're the only one who made me cry with a song. Go. Chase your dream. You've earned it." More applause. Emma hugged Gerald, then seemed unsure what to do with herself. She looked at Marcus, at the champagne being distributed, at the smiling faces around them. "This is really happening," she murmured. "This is really happening," Marcus confirmed. One of the hedge fund managers who'd been sitting at Marcus's table approached, champagne glass in hand. "Davenport, I've known you for 15 years. Never seen you apologize to anyone. Never seen you admit you were wrong. And I've certainly never seen you pick up a tab for a whole restaurant." Marcus accepted a glass of champagne from a passing server. "Maybe you didn't know me as well as you thought, Harrison. Or maybe," Harrison said thoughtfully, "you didn't know yourself as well as you thought." He raised his glass toward Emma. "Miss Hartley, that was extraordinary. Truly, I'll be first in line when you perform again." "Thank you," Emma said, her voice thick with emotion. The pianist who'd accompanied Emma's performance approached next. Up close, Marcus could see he was older than he'd first appeared, maybe 70, with silver hair and deep smile lines around his eyes. "Young lady," he said to Emma, "I've played for Pavarotti, for Renee Fleming, for Cecilia Bartoli, and you, my dear, have a gift that belongs in that company." He turned to Marcus. "You're doing the right thing. The world needs to hear this voice." Marcus nodded, accepting the older man's assessment. "What's your name, if I may ask?" "Robert Chen," the pianist smiled. "I'm retired now, but I spent 40 years as the principal accompanist at Juilliard." "Chen?" Marcus pulled out his phone again. "Any relation to Richard Chen, the attorney?" "My son." Robert's smile widened. "Small world, isn't it?" "Getting smaller by the minute." Marcus typed a quick message. "I just told Richard that his father gave the endorsement of the century. That should light a fire under him for Monday morning." Emma was shaking her head, laughing and crying simultaneously. "This is surreal. Completely surreal. I keep waiting to wake up in my studio apartment, getting ready for another double shift." "Not a dream," Marcus assured her, "though I understand the disbelief. 2 hours ago you were serving me wine. Now you're planning a comeback with one of the best entertainment attorneys in New York. Life changes fast sometimes." "Only in movies," Emma protested. "This doesn't happen in real life. It's happening right now." Marcus gestured around the restaurant. "All these witnesses, can't all be hallucinating?" A woman from table 4 approached, mascara still streaked on her cheeks. "I'm sorry to interrupt, but I had to say something." She looked at Emma with something like awe. "My daughter is at Juilliard right now. Vocal performance 2nd year. She's terrified she won't make it, that she's not good enough. Would you mind if I told her about tonight? About you? She needs to know that comebacks are possible." Emma took the woman's hand. "Tell her to never give up. Tell her that even when it seems impossible, even when life throws everything at you, the music doesn't die. It waits. And when you're ready, it comes back." The woman hugged Emma, crying openly now. "Thank you. Thank you so much." Marcus watched this exchange, feeling something unfamiliar stirring in his chest. When was the last time he'd made someone cry with joy instead of fear? When had he last used his power to build someone up instead of tear them down? He couldn't remember. Maybe never. His phone buzzed. A text from Richard Chen. "Dad just called. Says you found the real deal. I'm clearing my Monday morning. Whatever she needs, she gets. And Marcus, Dad says you did good tonight." From him, that means something. Marcus showed the text to Emma. "You've got Robert Chen's seal of approval. In the opera world, that's like getting knighted." Emma read the text, her hand trembling slightly. "This is too much. All of this is too much, too fast." She looked up at Marcus, vulnerability written across her features. "What if I fail? What if I've been away too long, and my voice isn't what it used to be? What if you're investing all this money and faith in someone who can't deliver?" Marcus set down his champagne glass, his expression turning serious. "Emma, do you know what I do for a living? I mean, really do?" She shrugged. "Something with money, obviously. Investments? Venture capital. I find companies that everyone else thinks are too risky, too unconventional, too likely to fail. And I bet on them anyway." He leaned against the table, his voice steady and calm. "I've invested in hundreds of startups. Maybe 70% failed. But the 30% that succeeded, they changed the world. Electric cars, renewable energy, medical devices that save lives. I don't bet on sure things, Emma. I bet on potential." "I'm not a company," she said softly. "No, you're better. Companies can be replicated. Someone else can build a better app, a faster computer, a cheaper product. But you? He gestured toward the stage where she'd sung. What you have can't be copied. Can't be manufactured. Can't be taught to just anyone. That voice, that gift, it's yours alone. And gifts like that don't disappear because of a 2-year break. Emma bit her lip, fighting back tears. You barely know me. I know enough. Marcus's voice softened. I know you sacrificed everything for someone you loved. I know you have the strength to start over. I know you walked onto that stage tonight, humiliated and angry, and instead of letting it break you, you showed everyone exactly who you are. That tells me more about your character than 1,000 interviews could. The restaurant continued its celebration around them, but in this small bubble, it was just the two of them. Marcus and Emma, the billionaire and the waitress. Two people whose paths should never have crossed in any meaningful way. Okay, Emma whispered. Okay, I'll try. I'll give it everything I have. That's all anyone can ask. Marcus straightened, pulling out a business card and writing on the back. This is my personal number. Not my assistant, not my secretary, me. You call if you need anything. Questions, concerns, cold feet, whatever. This is uncharted territory for both of us. She took the card, studying it like it might disappear. Why are you being so nice to me now? What changed between the man who mocked me 20 minutes ago and the man standing here now? Marcus considered the question, turning it over in his mind. Honestly, I don't know. Maybe hearing something so beautiful reminded me that there's more to life than quarterly earnings and hostile takeovers. Maybe I'm tired of being the villain in every story. Or maybe, he paused, searching for the truth. Maybe I just needed someone to prove me wrong. To show me that my cynicism isn't wisdom, it's just armor. And armor gets heavy after 40 years. Emma smiled, genuine and warm. That's the most honest thing you've said all night. Don't get used to it, Marcus replied, but he was smiling too. I have a reputation to maintain. Can't have people thinking I've gone soft. Too late. She gestured around the restaurant. You just bought champagne for 50 people and changed a waitress's life. The secret's out, Marcus Davenport. You have a heart. Allegedly, he countered. No proof yet. The sommelier approached with 2 fresh glasses of champagne. Mr. Davenport, Miss Hartley. A toast from the kitchen staff. They wanted me to tell you that in 20 years of working here, they've never seen anything like tonight. Marcus accepted both glasses, handing one to Emma. To the kitchen staff, then. And to unlikely evenings. Emma raised her glass. To second chances. To proving that arrogant billionaires can learn new tricks, Marcus added. To voices that refuse to be silenced, Emma continued. Her eyes sparkling, they clinked glasses. And Marcus found himself genuinely enjoying the moment. Not the performance of enjoyment he usually gave at social events, but real, authentic pleasure. When was the last time he'd felt this? College, maybe? Before the money, before the empire. Before he'd become Marcus Davenport, ruthless venture capitalist? I should probably go, Emma said, though she didn't move. This is your dinner, your evening. I've interrupted enough. You haven't interrupted anything. You've made it memorable. Marcus glanced at his abandoned table, where Harrison and the other hedge fund manager were deep in conversation, occasionally looking over with bemused expressions. Besides, I think my dinner companions are thoroughly entertained. This will be their story at every cocktail party for the next year. The night Marcus Davenport discovered humility, Emma said with a grin. Let's not go that far. I discovered perspective. Humility might be pushing it. She laughed, the sound bright and clear, and Marcus realized he liked making her laugh. It felt like an accomplishment, earning joy from someone who'd had so little of it lately. Robert Chen returned to the piano, playing soft jazz that filled the spaces between conversations. The restaurant had settled into a comfortable hum, the champagne flowing, the mood celebratory but no longer frenzied. Marcus noticed several diners had their phones out, undoubtedly texting about the evening's events. By tomorrow, this story would be all over social media. Part of him cringed at the exposure. He'd built his fortune by staying out of the spotlight, making moves quietly, efficiently, without fanfare. But another part, a part he was just discovering, didn't mind. Let people talk. For once, the story wouldn't be about corporate warfare or billion-dollar acquisitions. It would be about something good. I should warn you, Marcus said to Emma. This is probably going to go viral. Someone definitely recorded your performance. By morning you might be famous, Emma's eyes widened. Oh God, I didn't even think about that. Is that a problem? I don't know. She ran a hand through her blonde hair, loosening the ponytail. I mean, I wanted to be famous once. That was the dream. But I wanted it for my voice, for my art. Not for being part of some feel-good internet moment. Can't it be both? Marcus asked. The recording will show your talent. That's what people will remember. The context just makes it more compelling. Emma nodded slowly, processing this. I guess you're right. It's just, everything is happening so fast. This morning I woke up dreading another shift, figuring out which bill to pay late this month. Now I'm planning a comeback with a billionaire's backing and possibly going viral. It's a lot. We can slow down, Marcus offered. Take the weekend. Think about everything. Richard won't call until Monday anyway. You have time to process to decide if this is really what you want. It is what I want, Emma said immediately. I'm just scared. Terrified, actually. What if I'm not as good as I used to be? What if that performance tonight was a fluke, adrenaline and anger pushing me beyond my actual ability? Marcus shook his head. That wasn't adrenaline. That was years of training and natural talent combining into something extraordinary. Adrenaline doesn't give you perfect pitch or flawless technique. It just removes inhibition. What we heard tonight was the real you, Emma. Uninhibited and magnificent. A tear rolled down her cheek. She wiped it away quickly. Sorry, I'm not usually this emotional. It's just been a really long 2 years. You don't need to apologize. Not for tears, not for anything. Marcus pulled out a handkerchief from his jacket pocket, offering it to her. Cry if you need to. God knows you've earned it. Emma accepted the handkerchief, dabbing at her eyes. Your hedge fund friends are staring. They probably think I'm having a breakdown. Let them stare. Marcus deliberately turned his back to his table, blocking their view. They're not important. You are. She looked up at him, something shifting in her expression. Gratitude, yes, but also curiosity. Why are you doing this, really? And don't give me the speech about assumptions and growth. There's something else. Marcus was quiet for a moment, considering how much truth to reveal. My daughter, he finally said. I have a daughter. Had a daughter? Emma's breath caught. Oh, Marcus. Leah, she died 3 years ago. 17 years old, leukemia. The words came out flat, clinical, the only way he could say them without breaking. She loved music. Opera, specifically. Used to drag me to performances at the Met, trying to educate her Philistine father. I'm so sorry, Emma whispered. I never understood it. Marcus continued, staring at nothing. The appeal, I mean. I'd sit there in those velvet seats, watching people sing in languages I didn't speak, and all I could think about was the work I was missing. The deals I could be making. I never really listened. He paused, the memory sharp and painful. The last time we went, maybe 6 months before she died, she asked me what I thought of the soprano. Told her she was fine. Just fine. Leah got so angry with me. Said I didn't appreciate art, didn't understand beauty, couldn't see past profit margins and stock prices. Emma's hand found his, squeezing gently. He didn't pull away. She was right, Marcus said. About all of it. I was so focused on building my empire that I missed what was right in front of me. My daughter trying to share something she loved. And I couldn't even pretend to care. Marcus, tonight when you sang, I finally understood what Leah was trying to show me. He looked at Emma, his eyes bright. That beauty matters. That art isn't frivolous or excessive, it's essential. It's what makes us human. And I've spent 40 years dismissing it, just like I almost dismissed you. Emma was crying openly now, and Marcus realized his own eyes were wet too. When was the last time he'd cried? The funeral? Before that? Leah would have loved your voice, he said. She would have been standing on her chair, applauding until her hands hurt. She would have insisted we come to every one of your performances. Then I'll sing for her, Emma said softly. When I'm back on stage, I'll dedicate it to her. To Leah, who loved beauty in a world that often forgets to. Marcus nodded, unable to speak. The grief was still there. Always would be, but for the first time in 3 years it felt different. Less like drowning, more like remembering. Less like ending, more like honoring. They stood there in silence for a moment. Two strangers connected by loss and unexpected grace. The restaurant continued around them. oblivious to the deeper currents flowing between the billionaire and the waitress. Robert Chen's piano music wove through the air, something classical that Marcus didn't recognize but somehow felt appropriate. "Thank you," Emma finally said, "for telling me about Leah, for trusting me with that." Marcus cleared his throat, composing himself. "Thank you for listening. I don't usually talk about her. Most people get uncomfortable, try to change the subject. They don't know what to say." "There's nothing to say," Emma replied. "Loss is loss. It doesn't need commentary, just acknowledgement. Wise words from someone so young. I'm 29 and I've buried my mother. Wisdom comes whether you want it or not." She handed back his handkerchief. "Keep it. I have a feeling you might need it more than me tonight." Marcus pocketed the damp cloth, a small smile touching his lips. "You know, when I woke up this morning, I had no idea this day would end with me crying in a restaurant. When I woke up this morning, I had no idea a billionaire would pay off my debts and launch my comeback. So we're both surprised." Emma glanced at the clock on the wall. "It's almost 10. I should really go. Let you get back to your dinner. The dinner can wait. Hell, the dinner is probably cold by now anyway." Marcus looked at his table, where his companions had indeed finished eating and were now just watching the scene with undisguised interest. "Though I should probably release Harrison and Blake from their obligation." "They've been remarkably patient," Emma smiled. "Go. I'll just say goodbye to the staff." Marcus walked back to his table, where Harrison immediately stood up. "Davenport, that was the most interesting dinner I've ever had. And I once ate with the Prime Minister of Japan during an earthquake. Glad I could provide entertainment," Marcus said dryly. Blake, the other hedge fund manager, shook his head in wonder. "You know this is going to be everywhere tomorrow, right? Marcus Davenport discovers his humanity. The blogs will have a field day. Let them write what they want." Marcus sat down, suddenly exhausted. The emotional weight of the evening was catching up with him. "It's all true anyway. What are you going to do?" Harrison asked. "With the girl, I mean. This isn't just throwing money at a problem and walking away, is it?" "No." Marcus was surprised by his own certainty. "I'm going to see this through. Make sure she gets back on stage where she belongs. It's what Leah would have wanted." Understanding crossed Harrison's face. He'd been at the funeral 3 years ago, had sent flowers and a tasteful card. "Then we support you. Whatever you need. Blake and I both sit on Arts Foundation boards. We can make calls. I appreciate that." Marcus meant it. For all his wealth and connections, having allies in this unfamiliar territory would matter. "Let's talk Monday. Right now, I just want to finish this champagne and pretend the world makes sense." The three men raised their glasses in silent toast. Through the restaurant, Marcus could see Emma hugging the kitchen staff, laughing with the other servers, her whole face transformed by joy. She looked young suddenly, unburdened, like the weight of 2 years had lifted in one extraordinary evening. Gerald approached the table. "Mr. Davenport, I wanted to thank you personally for what you did tonight. For Emma, yes, but also for everyone here. You gave us all a reminder that magic still exists in this city." "I'm not sure I deserve that much credit," Marcus said. "I was an arrogant ass who got schooled. The magic was all Emma." "The magic was both of you," Gerald corrected. "Her talent, yes, but also your willingness to admit you were wrong. To make amends in such a grand gesture. That's rare, sir. Especially among men of your stature." Marcus accepted this with a nod. "How much is the final bill?" "For everything?" Gerald handed him a leather folder. Marcus opened it, scanning the itemized list. $43,712. For one evening. For champagne and goodwill and the best investment he'd made in years. He added a $20,000 tip, signing with a flourish. Gerald's eyes widened. "Sir, this is too generous. Split it among the staff." "They earned it." Marcus stood, buttoning his jacket. "And Gerald? Keep a bottle of your best champagne on ice. For when Emma performs at the Met, we'll come back here afterward to celebrate. It will be my honor." "Mr. Davenport." Emma was making her way toward the exit. Having changed out of her server uniform into jeans and a simple blue sweater that matched her eyes. She'd let her hair down, blonde waves falling past her shoulders. She looked different out of uniform. More herself somehow. Marcus caught up with her at the door. "Can I give you a ride home?" "I have a car waiting." She hesitated. That's okay. I usually take the subway. Emma, it's 10 o'clock at night. Let me do this one small thing, please. After a moment, she nodded. Okay, thank you. They stepped out into the cool October night, the city alive with its usual chaos of traffic and pedestrians, and the constant hum of millions of lives intersecting. Marcus's driver, a quiet man named Thomas, pulled up in a black Mercedes. Where to, miss? Thomas asked as they settled into the leather seats. Emma gave an address in Queens, a neighborhood Marcus rarely visited. The car pulled into traffic, and they sat in comfortable silence for a few blocks, watching the city lights blur past the windows. Can I ask you something? Emma's voice broke the silence, soft but curious. Of course. Marcus turned from the window to face her. What happens now? I mean, really. Monday your attorney calls, he handles the debts, sets up meetings. But what about you? Do you just disappear back into your billionaire life, checking in occasionally to see how your investment is doing? The question caught Marcus off guard. He'd been so focused on solving the immediate problem, on fixing what he'd broken, that he hadn't thought beyond the logistics. I don't know, he admitted. I haven't planned that far ahead. That's not very like you, is it? From what I've read, Marcus Davenport always has a plan. 3 plans, actually. And backup plans for those plans. He laughed despite himself. You've been Googling me? I Googled you the first time you came into the restaurant 6 months ago. Wanted to know who the demanding guy at table 7 was. She smiled. Imagine my surprise finding out he was worth $4 billion. And yet you still made me wait for my wine when it was busy. Money. Doesn't make anyone more important than the single mother at table 12, trying to enjoy her one night out this month. Emma's voice was matter of fact, not judgmental. Everyone gets the same service. That's the rule. Marcus found himself impressed. You know, most people treat me differently once they know who I am. Either they want something, or they're intimidated, or they start performing. You never did any of that, should I have? Emma asked. Would you have respected me more if I'd fawned over you? No, he considered this. Actually, that's probably why I noticed you in the first place. You were the only server who didn't seem impressed by my presence. I was impressed by your tips, Emma said with a grin. Those I noticed? They both laughed, and Marcus realized how natural this felt. Talking with Emma, being honest. Not performing the role of Marcus Davenport, master of the universe. Just being Marcus. A man who'd made mistakes and was trying to do better. To answer your question, he said, I'd like to stay involved. If you're comfortable with that. Not as an investor checking returns, but as someone who wants to see you succeed. Maybe even as a friend, if that's not too presumptuous. Emma studied his face in the passing streetlights. Friends with a billionaire. That's not something I ever expected. Friends with a world-class soprano. That's not something I expected either. Marcus leaned back against the seat. We're both full of surprises tonight. The car slowed, turning onto a street lined with older apartment buildings. Not run down exactly, but worn. Lived in. Real. Emma pointed to a 5-story walk-up with faded brick and a corner bodega on the ground floor. This is me. 3rd floor, apartment 3C, Thomas pulled to the curb. Marcus reached for the door handle, but Emma stopped him. You don't need to walk me up. This neighborhood is safe, and I've been doing this for 2 years. I know I don't need to, Marcus said, but I'd like to. If that's okay. After a moment, Emma nodded. They exited the car, and Marcus followed her into the building. The lobby was clean but dated, with mailboxes on one wall and a bulletin board covered in flyers for yoga classes and lost cats. The elevator had an out-of-order sign taped to it. Stairs, Emma said apologetically. The elevator's been broken for 3 weeks. Landlord keeps promising to fix it. They climbed the 3 flights, Emma moving easily while Marcus tried not to show how his expensive gym membership apparently hadn't prepared him for actual stairs. By the 3rd floor, he was slightly winded. Remind me to fire my personal trainer, he muttered. Emma laughed. Welcome to real life, where elevators don't always work and not everything can be solved with money. She unlocked her door, pushing it open but not inviting him in. Marcus could see a small studio apartment, neat and organized despite its size. A futon that probably served as both couch and bed. A tiny kitchenette. Bookshelves made from cinder blocks and planks. And in the corner, barely visible, what looked like sheet music stacked carefully on a folding table. It's not much, Emma said, following his gaze. But it's mine. Or it will be once the debts are paid. It's perfect, Marcus said, and meant it. There was something honest about this space, something real that his penthouse apartment with its designer furniture and floor-to-ceiling windows lacked. Thank you for letting me see it. Emma leaned against the doorframe, suddenly looking exhausted. The adrenaline of the evening was clearly wearing off. Thank you for tonight. For everything. I still can't quite believe it happened. Believe it. Marcus pulled out his phone, showing her his calendar. Monday, 9 a.m., already blocked out. Emma Hartley, new beginning. It's official. She read the screen, her eyes welling up again. You really think I can do this? Get back to where I was? I think you can go further than you ever imagined, Marcus said. But more importantly, you need to believe it. The talent is there, Emma. It never left. You just need to trust yourself again. I'll try. She wiped at her eyes. God, I've cried more tonight than I have in months. You must think I'm a mess. I think you're human. Beautifully, perfectly human. Marcus stepped back toward the stairs. Get some rest. This weekend, don't think about opera or showcases or any of it. Just rest. Celebrate. Let yourself feel good about what happened tonight. Emma nodded, a soft smile playing at her lips. I'll try, though I'm not sure I'll sleep much. Too many thoughts racing through my head. Write them down, Marcus suggested. Everything you're feeling. Everything you want to say when you're back on stage. Channel it into your art. That's what Leah used to tell me artists do. They transform life into beauty. She sounds like she was an amazing person. She was. Marcus felt the familiar ache, but it was gentler now, wrapped in gratitude rather than just loss. She would have liked you. She had good instincts about people. Better than mine, certainly. I don't know about that, Emma said. Your instincts brought you back tonight. Brought you to apologize, to help, to change everything. That counts for something. They stood there in the hallway, neither quite ready to say goodbye. The building was quiet around them. Just the distant sound of a television through someone's door, and the hum of the city outside. Monday, Marcus finally said. Richard will call at 9. He's good people, Emma. His father vouched for you, which means Richard will move mountains to make this work. Monday, Emma echoed. New beginning? New beginning, Marcus agreed. He turned toward the stairs, then paused. Emma, thank you for tonight. For reminding me what matters. For proving me wrong in the best possible way. Thank you for listening, she replied. For seeing me. For giving me a second chance when I'd given up on myself. Marcus descended the stairs, feeling lighter than he had in years. When he reached the lobby, he looked back up. Emma was still standing in her doorway, watching him go. She waved, and he waved back. Outside, Thomas was waiting by the Mercedes. Home, sir? Home, Marcus confirmed, settling into the back seat. As the car pulled away, he looked back at the building one more time. A light flickered on in a third-floor window. Emma's window. The beginning of something new. His phone buzzed. A text from Harrison. It's already trending. Waitress soprano. 3 million views in an hour. You created a viral sensation. Marcus smiled, typing back. We'll see where it goes. Another text, this time from Richard Chen. Dad called again. He's demanding we do this right. I'm clearing my whole week if needed. This is going to be special, Marcus. I can feel it. Marcus looked out at the city streaming past. The lights of Manhattan giving way to the bridge, the endless possibility of New York at night. Somewhere out there, Emma Hartley was beginning to dream again. And for the first time in 3 years, Marcus Davenport felt like he was part of something that mattered. Not a deal. Not a transaction. Not another zero added to his net worth. Something real. Something human. Something that would make his daughter proud. The car crossed into Manhattan, and Marcus closed his eyes, seeing not the darkness behind his lids, but a stage. Emma standing in a spotlight, her voice filling an opera house, thousands of people on their feet applauding. And in the front row, an empty seat, reserved for Leah, always reserved for Leah. We did it, sweetheart, he whispered to the memory of his daughter. I finally understood. The city lights blurred past, and Marcus Davenport smiled. If you enjoyed this story of redemption, second chances and the transformative power of art, please subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and turn on notifications so you never miss another inspiring tale. Share this with someone who needs to hear that it's never too late to begin again. Comment below about a time someone proved you wrong in the best way possible. Thank you for being part of this community where every story matters and every voice deserves to be heard.